Here's a story problem from the book, section 2.2, and I'm going to do number 1, the one that's labeled test scores. And it's here on the screen, so we can read it together before I work it out. It says a student in an algebra class, in an algebra course, has test scores of 75, 82, 71, and 84. What score on the next test will raise the student's average to 80? So in other words, the student is going to take one more test, and his goal is to raise his average to 80. So our job is to determine how he needs to do on that last test to get an average of 80. So story problems, you just have to think about what's going on and think about the logic behind what you're trying to figure out. The first thing, so this is called test scores. So let me talk about this. I want to make sure what I'm writing is on the screen. Looks good. So test scores. So we're talking about an average test score. One of the first things you can do in story problems is you can define your variable. The variable is always going to be whatever you're trying to figure out. Whatever you're trying to determine or to calculate, that's going to be your variable. And in this case, we're trying to figure out what score he needs to get on the last test. So I can say last test score is my variable x. Now you have to think what's going on. So far, looks like he's taken 4 tests. So currently, on the first test, he got a 75, and then he got an 82, and then a 71, and then an 84. Now how do we go about figuring out an average test score? Well, average test score is you add the test scores and you divide by the number of tests. So in other words, if we decided to figure out his average test score for these 4 tests, we would add these 4 tests together and then divide it by 4, and that would be his average. However, what we're wanting to do is we're wanting to say he's going to take one more test, and then when he takes that test, after he finishes that test, he wants his overall test average to be 80. So his goal he wants his test average to equal 80. So really, what we say is we take his first 4 test scores and he's going to take a 5th test, which we're calling X. We're trying to figure out what score he should get on his 5th test. So we call that X. Now to find the average, now we're going to have 5 test scores. So we divide it by 5. And he wants, his goal is for that test average to be 80. So then the question is, what should X be? So in this case, we want to solve for X. So now, this becomes an algebra problem. I would multiply both sides by 5. And I'm actually going to add these 4 first test scores together. I've got my calculator here, 75 plus 82 plus 71 plus 84 equals 312. So I have 312 plus x equals 400. So then to solve for x, I just subtract 312 from both sides. And you have x equals 88. So we're saying to end up with an average of 80 after he takes his fifth test, he needs to get an 88 on that fifth test. So that's how you do the story problem when you're trying to calculate a test average.